Okay, a lot to cover. We've got some breaking news. Actor and musician Jussie Smollett from the hit show Empire was attacked and beaten early this morning in Chicago, and police say it could be a hate crime. Investigators say it all started when two individuals yelled out racial and homophobic slurs. They began to beat him up and then poured a chemical substance onto his body. But it gets worse. Investigators say one of the offenders wrapped a rope around Smollett's neck. Back in 2016, Smollett spoke openly about being gay in Hollywood, telling Attitude magazine, quote, "I get tired of the idea of someone telling me what my truth is. I've said from the beginning of my journey, I do not hide who I am. I love who I love. No one is going to tell me that somehow that is going to be my disability. I'm told so many times that I should not walk truly in my blackness, that I should not walk truly in my sexuality. I should not walk truly in who I am. I say thanks, but no thanks. F you and goodbye. I honestly think that me being myself has actually helped my career move forward." This is horrible to report. NBC's Miguel Almaguer is live in Los Angeles, and NBC News legal analyst Danny Savalas joins us live. Miguel, walk us through this. What else do we know about the circumstances of this terrible attack?
Well, certainly a very disturbing attack. Chicago police have not released many details. They say they are investigating this as a possible hate crime. Certainly there are many indications of a hate crime here. They are looking for two suspects who were apparently wearing Make America Great Again hats, though that has not yet been officially confirmed. There has been no detailed description on the suspects. This again happened around 2 a.m. in downtown Chicago. Investigators say the victim was able to walk himself to a local hospital, where we are told he is in good and stable condition today. But again, a very disturbing attack with very few details about these two assailants, who also apparently yelled out homophobic and racist slurs to him before they attacked him physically, and then tied that noose around his neck before leaving.
What do we know about the suspects?
Very little. Not even a description has been released, other than they were two white males. We don't know their heights. We don't know their builds. That's all information that police were working on. Of course, this did happen in the downtown Chicago area. So one thing investigators will likely look at is any surveillance video in the area. They have not released any leads on that so far, but clearly multiple investigators from several different departments at Chicago PD are all working on this case together.
I am just looking at our notes. I don't know that NBC has confirmed that they were specifically wearing those hats. I believe it's been reported. I don't believe that NBC has been able to confirm that detail. Danny, this is a horrible story, no matter what kind of attack or crime it was. But what do prosecutors need to prove to categorize this as a hate crime?
When a person commits a crime in Illinois because of their actual or perceived race and a list of other things such as religion, they commit the crime of hate crimes. And every state has different hate crime statutes. Some don't really have them at all. But the challenge with hate crimes is proving something that in our criminal code we don't normally have. Prosecutors are not normally required to prove motive. Motive is ordinarily not part of a crime. The law doesn't care why you robbed the bank. They care that you robbed the bank. But hate crimes are a little different in that they do require a showing of motive, that an attack of some kind was motivated by a hatred or animus against someone's race. And that's what makes them complex. And in most cases, prosecutors are better off charging a more serious crime. Like in Illinois, you have crimes like aggravated battery, or even one called heinous battery, which requires the use of, for example, a caustic or flammable substance. It's the most serious kind of felony short of murder in Illinois.
And to your point that I think you just made, while some people find it interesting when it's a hate crime, it feels that it feels more just. It's not necessarily the case. The outcome is different, right? They can charge him with they can charge these perpetrators with a violent crime that would have a result that is as strong, if not stronger, than charging them with a hate crime.
Hate crimes are a relatively recent creation. The criminal code has always punished battery, aggravated battery, any kind of attack that causes serious bodily harm is always going to be in the highest strata of battery or assault charges, depending on what state you're in. So the recent addition of hate crimes allows prosecutors, where they think they have the evidence, to punish for that additional racial animus.
Got it.
But if they can't make that proof, which can be be difficult to meet that burden, they can always fall back on assault, aggravated assault, and even murder if the facts support it.
Got it.
Miguel, you may have already told us, but I'm so shaken by the story, I forgot. I know he walked himself to the hospital. Do we know how he is now?
The family has reportedly said that he is in stable condition. NBC News did speak to a member of his family. They say he is recovering and he will eventually be okay. But of course, this was a very heinous attack. There will be several issues he'll have to deal with in the coming days. But they say his spirits are fairly high, considering what he's been through.
What a remarkable story. Okay, guys, thanks very much. Miguel, you'll stay on this. Miguel Almaguer and Danny Ceballos. Thank you, guys.
This is a horrible story.
Yeah. Hey, MSNBC fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down there and click on any of the videos here to watch the latest interviews and highlights. You can get more MSNBC for free every day with our newsletters. Just visit msnbc.com/newsletters to sign up now.